Konnichiwa everybody, welcome back. So yes, my problem with the Sega Saturn. It's a first world problem, I'll grant you. But my problem is, I love it. And I love all the variants you can get in it. I mean, a lot of people don't like the Saturn. Each to their own. Absolutely fine. No right and wrong answers. But I love it. And it was just, it's that period where it felt like you were getting the arcade at home. Finally. And being a big Sega kid, I always was, always will be. The Sega consoles were where it was at for me because I wanted the Sega arcade conversions. So 1994 comes out in Japan in November. Just before Christmas, I can remember it well. Getting my first console with Virtua Fighter. What great times, and I also had Gale Racer at the time as well. But obviously then it got released in 95, I don't know, 6-8 months later in the USA and Europe. And it unfortunately never was a massive success outside of Japan, purely because the PlayStation was so dominant, really. That's a whole other subject, in my opinion. PlayStation piracy got a lot to answer for, and it had such cool advertising, and you know, it was a cool thing to own. So, coupled with the fact that Sega launched the Saturn with the 32X at the same time, utter madness. After the flop of the Mega CD, you know, it's just another Sega console that they ain't going to support and I'm going to drop. People ain't going to buy it, are they? You know, I don't know what they were thinking, but regardless of that, if you were a Sega kid, you still loved the Saturn, which is what I did and still do. So, like I say, there's loads of different variants of the Saturn, and so this got me thinking about, I've got a bit of a problem, because you only really need one console, don't you? But you know, that collector in me, and you possibly, if you're watching this rubbish, you know, you like to acquire things, don't you? And so I just thought I'd do a silly little video about my craziness for the Sega Saturn. As I said, the first one that came out in Japan was the one I had. Unfortunately, I haven't got that one anymore because it broke and I sold it for parts. I wished I'd kept it now and just got it repaired, but that's by the by. So the first one, obviously, was the Mark 1 Japanese grey Saturn. And for me, I think this is my favourite, to be honest, purely for the nostalgia. I think it's the first one I ever had. But I do particularly like the Japanese Mark 1 grey Saturn. It's a lovely thing. I really like how it looks and the appearance of it. And I do have a box for that one, courtesy of the excellent Craig's here again. And this is just like I had back in the day. So, very nostalgic for this. So, this will always be, I think, my favourite Sega Saturn. But of course then, when it came out in America and PAL regions, that totally changed it. It was all black, which a bit dull, in my opinion. Exactly the same looking machine, oval buttons on a Mark 1 console, as you can see, as I'm sure you know. It was just all black. Now I haven't got one of them, but I have got, at a later date, that launched a Mark II version, of which I've got a Mark II PAL Saturn, and the difference being these have got round buttons, as all the Mark IIs have. Now this is my original Saturn from back in the day, because when my original Japanese one broke, I bought this off my old mate Daz, and he'd modded it to play like a Japanese machine. And there's a switch in the back. You can switch between the two if you want to. But yeah, this is the one I've used all these years. 30 years later, it's still going strong, Daz. So I've still got nostalgia for this. It's a bit dull compared with the grey one, in my opinion. And I've also still got the box for that, mate. All these years later, still in nice nick. It's been a fine servant. But then when I started buying Saturn games again, I thought, there's some nice variants of the Saturn. And at some point then, I thought, I'd quite like to acquire a few more. So I did. Hence my problem with the Sega Saturn. So then, again, as with most things, the Japanese market is where all the exciting products are. And instead of the dull black varieties, the Japanese market got much more interesting ones, generally speaking. So then the standard Mark II Japanese Saturn is the white Saturn. Again, as you can see, with round buttons. But it's also got a coloured eject button, and there's coloured buttons on the control pad. It looks a lot nicer in my opinion. This one's not quite as white as it once was. This was a standard Japanese one, but I've since installed the fen rear in this, so this has got an ODE in it, which is a great option considering the price of Saturn games these days, to be honest. But again, I do really like the Japanese white Saturn. Then you get into the more sort of unusual variants, I would say. And so, because the Saturn was kind of licensed out like the 3DO, different manufacturers made versions of the Saturn in Japan. So there's a JVC Saturn, it's called the V-Saturn, and this is a Mark II. You can get it in like Mark 1 and Mark 2. The Mark 1 again has got the oval buttons, but this one's got the round buttons, and again they're coloured differently, where the Mark 1 is more of a uniform, sort of the same colour across the buttons. But this is kind of two-toned, like the tops are lighter grey and the bottoms are darker grey. The top's kind of like the Mark 1 Japanese console, and the bottom's a bit darker, but obviously it's not black. So I do quite like this one, it's a nice contrast. And that's the V-Saturn. And again, with these, you get a different boot up screen for each one. If I get a chance, I'll just put a clip of the boot up screen of the different ones between the V-Saturn and the standard Sega one, the Japanese and the PAL, because they're all a bit different. But it's just a little curio fact. It's quite nice to see the other options. And then of course this is probably one of the rarer variants, and it's the last one I bought up to this point. And we've got the Hi-Saturn, which is made by Hitachi. Now this is a Mark 1, as you can see, because we've got the oval buttons again. Again, you can get it in a Mark 2 with the round buttons. Now the big difference with this one at the time was the Hi-Saturn came with a video CD card in the back, so you could play video CD films, which you couldn't do in the regular Saturn. It's a bit more dull in terms of it's pretty much plain black like the PAL one. But I just thought it was I don't know, I didn't need to buy it really, but it's just cool, isn't it? And this one has got the video CD card. If I can get the back off, I can show you. Well, I could if I could get it out, which I can't. Oh, there we go. There we go. It came with one of those in the back, just to allow you to play video CDs, like I say. And it just fits in the back where the coin cell battery goes. So that's the Hi-Saturn. Now unfortunately there are another couple of variants which I haven't got. I mean, this is like a bottomless rabbit hole really, because you could say, well, you need a Mark 1 PAL one, you need a Mark 2 PAL. Well, I've got the Mark 2 PAL, and you could say I need a Mark 1 PAL, and then you could say, well, you could have a Mark 1 and a Mark 2 American Saturn, but they're exactly the same to look at as the PAL one. So I might be mad, but I'm not stark raving mad. Which again, you could say, well, I could do with a Mark 1 V-Saturn and a Mark 2 Hi-Saturn. The men in white coats aren't knocking the door yet, but they might be if I bought all them. However, there are another two which, in an ideal world, I wouldn't mind, to be fair, because there's a Samsung Saturn, which was only sold in Korea, I think, back in the day. They are rare. I've not seen one for sale on eBay. I'll put a picture up if I can remember to show you what they look like. There are some Samsung Saturn games listed on eBay, and they're all crazy money. For, you know, just standard releases, they've just got Samsung Saturn written down the side instead of Sega Saturn, and they're all like hundreds of pounds for like games which are worth a tenner if it was a normal game. So I'm never going to buy a Samsung Saturn, but you know, I'll show you the picture anyway. They're like a black console as well, so it's not that exciting to look at. The glaring omission from my collection is probably the sexiest Saturn you can buy, which is the skeleton Saturn. Again, I'll put some pictures up. I really would like one of those. There are two variants of that. They are Japanese exclusive, obviously. There's the first one that came out, the regular skeleton Saturn. It's like a smoked see-through smoked black case for the console with red buttons. I forget which way around it is. One's lighter than the other. Then the second skeleton Saturn is the Derby Stallion Special Edition one, which came packaged with the Derby Stallion horse racing game. Like I say, and that's got "This is cool" written on the disc lid, as well as being smoked black plastic. And like I say, one's darker plastic than the other. I forget which way around it is, but I wouldn't want to buy both. But if I could buy one of those two, I would be quite happy with my Saturn console collection. And that's it really. It's madness, but I just thought I'd share my feelings on the Saturn. Which one's your favourite? Do you think I'm crazy? I probably am. But that said, I've got 5 of them. I would like to add a 6th one day and get that skeleton Saturn. So who knows? Maybe. I'm not in a rush, but it's on my list to hopefully find one day. But let me know your thoughts anyway. Thanks for watching. Hope you're all well, and we'll see you shortly, all being well. Sayonara.